Welcome to the Synthesis of Yoga, the book that changed my life. We are going through part 1, chapter 6, episode number 77. In the last episode, we saw that the experience of adoration, our heart's adoration, even when it is directed towards lesser goals or our rights are very limited, objectives are limited, still behind that adoration, there is a spiritual force. And it is this adoration deepens into worship, and for the emotional being to develop, idolatry has a role to play. There is nothing to despise it. And as this intensifies, we also discover you are deeply loved, and it is the divine who is loving and flowing out through you, and that expands into love for all and an ascension into the higher possibilities of love. Now, in this episode, we are starting with paragraph number 4, the Ascent of Sacrifice 2, paragraph 4. Those who are new, the link is in the description. Kindly follow the link and go through the text so that it helps us to imbibe the patterns of Sri Aurobindo's thought, and his consciousness force enters through that journey. That's the reason why we are doing this yajna of reading through Sri Aurobindo, sacrifice of knowledge. So welcome. An ultimate inexpressible adoration offered by us to the transcendent, to the highest, to the ineffable, is yet no complete worship if it is not offered to him wherever he manifests, or wherever even he hides his Godhead, in man and objects and every creature. So this has to be complemented. On one hand, we ascend into the higher levels in our adoration, in our worship, transcendent, the highest, the ineffable. But that adoration is incomplete if we cannot see the highest, the divine, in this world, even when it is veiled behind the apparent workings of nature. That reminds me of a line from Sri Aurobindo, where he says, I'm remembering, people say, I love God, but I cannot love human beings. But then, with whom are they in love? Because all these human beings and the whole world, material world, is an expression of the divine, however veiled the expression is. So that's something that we need to consciously cultivate as a mindset, a heart set, an approach to look at everything as an expression, but not perfect expression. It's a veiled, limited expression, and to see through behind the veil the essential truth. So an ultimate inexpressible adoration offered by us to the transcendent, to the highest, to the ineffable, is yet no complete worship if it is not offered to him wherever he manifests, or wherever even he hides his Godhead, in man and object and every creature. It's easy to love when someone is loving us, or someone is so glorious. When we see certain divinity shining through the individuals, it's very easy to adore, easy to worship, easy to relate deeply. But when someone is violent, crude, aggressive. We cannot see a trace of love. How do we see behind the veil whose hands are playing through all that drama in the world? It is through that we can expand our heart and enter into the space of the all, loving all in the universe, in the world. And ignorance is there, no doubt, which imprisons the heart, distorts its feelings, obscures the significance of its offering. So that's there. There is ignorance within us, there is ignorance outside that distorts, veils, and obscures the significance of the offering. What we are doing is an offering of knowledge, offering of love, offering of work. In this specific chapter we are going through, it is offering of love. Currently we are going through the significance of this offering. It gets obscured, veiled because of the ignorance. And also, the immediate person to whom it is offered may reject it. But remember, it is the one who is behind all the forms to whom the offering is made who actually receives it, even when the apparent outward instrument is rejecting or distorting. Our conscious focus needs to be upon the essential divine presence behind all things. And ignorance is there, no doubt, which imprisons the heart, distorts its feelings, obscures the significance of its offering. All partial worship, all religion, which erects a mental or physical idol, is tempted to veil and protect the truth in it by a certain cloak of ignorance, and easily loses the truth in its image. So the religions do create idols, and in that process of establishing an idol, the essential truth of the idol, what it represents, gets veiled and gets forgotten. And it tends to become an outer ritual ceremony, and the demand for conformity and the claimings of this is the right idol, other one is the wrong one. And this whole veil and ignorance come into picture. And the essential truth gets lost. And it's very, very common. Because of the human nature, its ignorance, its tendency to imprison itself into the tiny little grooves of the heart and the mind. So an ignorance is there, no doubt, which imprisons the heart, distorts its feelings, obscures the significance of its offering. All partial worship, all religion which erects a mental or a physical idol is tempted to veil and protect the truth in it by a certain cloak of ignorance, and easily loses the truth in its image. And we can see this everywhere. People feeling the strong need to protect their particular idol from everyone else. And in that process is where everything gets imprisoned, narrow, and veiled and distorted. But the pride of exclusive knowledge is also a limitation and a barrier. So the divine across millennia has manifested through many, many great teachers, many teachings, many religions. And when a group feels that their teaching is exclusive, the most pure, and try to protect it. And that's where the distortion begins. So the pride of exclusive knowledge is also a limitation and a barrier. So even when with a great master creating a profound spiritual movement, out of that some religions take place, and then the religion, within the religion itself, you will find the bifurcations into various schools claiming that we are the representative of the real truth, the original pure teaching. Every other school is limited. So this is a natural course it takes in the process of time. Humanity tends to limit things, distort things, make it narrow and exclusive. For there is concealed behind individual love, obscured by its ignorant human figure, a mystery which the mind cannot seize, the mystery of the body of the divine. The body of the divine. Usually, when we are talking about the divine, the higher consciousness, the supreme being, generally considered as formless. And that is the truth at a higher ranges. At the highest source is formless. But there is the mystery of this manifest world where there is the very material body of the divine. There is a mystery behind the body itself and the evolution of the body. The secret of a mystic form of the infinite, which can approach only through the ecstasy of the heart and the passion of the pure and sublimated sense. Pure and sublimated sense. Our normal sense experience is gross. But when the consciousness gets refined, even the sensory experience gets sublime. And in fact, Sri Aurobindo explains later in Synthesis of Yoga the supramental sense. Our senses undergoing profound transformation with the descent of supramental consciousness. Even senses undergo transformation, and that is what enables us to experience the mystic form of the infinite. It is not the formless, it is the mystic form of the infinite, which we can approach only through the ecstasy of the heart. It's not through the mind, it is through the ecstasy of the heart and the passion of the pure, sublimated sense. And its attraction, which is the call of the divine flute player. It is here Sri Krishna image is brought in. Flute player is India's dearest held secret. The divine is conceived as the beloved flute player, and listening to that flute, hearing that incredible enchanting music, the soul awakens and starts searching for the source of the music and discovers this mystical form of the divine. Its attraction, which is the call of the divine flute player, the mastering compulsion of the all beautiful, can only be seized and seize us. So on one hand, we are trying to seize this mystic form of the divine. On the other hand, that mystic presence and form is seizing us, our heart, our whole being. And there is this profound fusion and melting and adoration and self-giving that happens. We try to seize, we try to possess the divine, and then the divine possesses us. Can only be seized and seize us through an occult love and yearning, which in the end makes one the form and the formless. So the form and formless can coexist simultaneously and identifies the spirit and matter. This is the integral vision of the divine. Formless and form had been the bone of contention between so many religions, spiritual teachers, and each one claiming an exclusive knowledge and asserting that their particular view is the right one. In our integral approach, these two are complementary. Form need not be the obscure veil. Form can be the mystic form, which actually reveals the divinity, and there is the possession and being possessed by the divine. And that is the greatest ecstasy and joy we can experience in life. So there is no need for a conflict between the formless and form, spirit and matter. Matter itself gets divinized, and we can increasingly enter into that experience when our senses get sublime and heart opens. These are experiences of the heart and the senses. For there is concealed behind individual love, obscured by its ignorant human figure, a mystery which the mind cannot seize. The mystery of the body of the divine, the secret of a mystic form of the infinite, which we can approach only through the ecstasy of the heart and the passion of the pure and sublimated sense, and its attraction, which is the call of the divine flute player, the mastering compulsion of the all beautiful, can only be seized and seizes through an occult love and yearning, which in the end makes one the form and the formless, and identifies spirit and matter. So the beloved, the supreme, attracts like a magnet, and there is an occult attraction and love sought by the heart. Somewhere something in us is yearning, and we are listening to something very vaguely felt. The divine flute player's song, secretly recognized by the soul within. And it's a hidden process. And we are gently listening to some magnetic pull, an attraction that is calling, and gladly surrendering to its music. And that is drawing us towards an adventure. And we want to seize, we want to see, we want to seek, we want to find, and we want to take possession of the divine. But in the process, what we discover is we are being gently taken out of our ignorance and seized by the beloved. And the beloved settles in the heart. The beautiful beloved settled in the heart, a living image seated in the heart. In the Ramayana, the Hanuman opens his heart and shows the image of Sri Rama and Sita. It's a representation. Like Sri Rama and Sita represents the divine incarnation. It's a form. And in the Hanuman's heart is seen. So you find your own heart getting quietly owned up, claimed by the beloved, whatever be the form through which you are discovering the mystery. In that, it is that which the spirit in love is seeking here in the darkness of ignorance. And it is that which it finds when individual human love is changed into the love of the immanent divine incarnate in the material universe. There is a spirit in love. There is a propulsion by the heart or through the heart. And that is their seeking the immanent divine, the very body of the spirit. Embrace that, to reveal it, to express it in the material form, and seize it, to feel it, to become one with it. In the process, your own physical being, your own heart, everything you find getting suffused by the divine presence, growing within. And you increasingly feel the body to be a sacred temple where the divinity is growing and seated in the heart. You're getting possessed by the all beautiful. And it's a silent, occult, inner process. And that's where human love eventually growing towards divine love culminates, by discovering the divinity growing within your own divinization. It is that which the spirit in love is seeking here in the darkness of ignorance. And it is that which it finds when individual human love is changed into the love of the immanent divine, incarnate in the material universe. The immanent divine. Divine here involved in this material nature, not just the formless transcendence, but here is a living presence in all things. Isha vasyam idam sarvam. Yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Everything is inhabited by the divine, including your own physical, material envelope. As with individual, so with universal love. All that widening of the self through sympathy, goodwill, universal benevolence, and beneficence, love of mankind, love of creatures, the attraction of the myriad forms and presences that surround us, by which mentally and emotionally man escapes from the first limits of his ego, has to be taken up into a unifying divine love for the universal divine. We are normally bound by the ego. Ego gives the sense that I am separate from everyone else and everything else. And I, me, and myself is the center of the ego. And it is very narrow. And this ego boundary is where the whole approach, when it is through like sympathy, goodwill towards others, universal benevolence and beneficence, love of mankind, love of creatures. So when we begin to love and care for others, all creatures, everything around, and expand that, what happens is this tiny little ego narrowness begin to melt and expand. And that expansion is what opens us towards a greater love, and it expands to feel the larger and larger world and its journey, and include and encompass the whole world in the process. And it is for this reason whole activities of charity, humanitarian service, all that is of a great value, because that takes us out of the narrow human ego and learn to open the heart. So various practices these days we find, like anonymous acts of kindness, random acts of kindness, helping you to overcome the ego boundaries and to feel the heart and expansion of the heart, the joy of the heart. And this, when it is extended into the larger world through sympathy, through goodwill, being benevolent towards everyone and beneficent towards everyone. And that opens up the heart, widens the heart, melts the ego, dissolves the ego, not necessarily entirely removing the ego, but the rigidity of the ego, I, me, and myself, that goes away. You are able to feel the wider life and feel identified with it, and you expand your scope, your possibility. And that will lead increasingly towards the unifying love. Love is what unifies an individual with other individuals, with other creatures, and larger collectives. And that's the beauty of love. The more we experience love, more unity we enter. And that will expand into larger and larger unity. As with individual, so with universal love. All that widening of the self through sympathy, goodwill, universal benevolence and beneficence, love of mankind, love of creatures, the attraction of all the myriad forms and presences that surround us, by which mentally and emotionally man escapes from the first limits of his ego, has to be taken up into a unifying divine love for the universal divine. So that's where it eventually culminates, going towards the universal divine as we expand and enlarge, consciously cultivating that perspective so that the eventually experience enters and fulfills our heart. Adoration fulfilled in love, love in Ananda. Adoration fulfilled in love. When you start adoring, it will culminate in profound love. And love in Ananda. So these three things, adoration, love, and Ananda, delight, these are the natural growth and outcome, the experience of Ananda. Where there is love, there is Ananda. So adoration fulfilled in love, love in Ananda, the surpassing love, the self-wrapped ecstasy of transcendent delight in the transcendent. It's a surpassing love, love that surpasses eventually all the forms and even universalizes and even opens to the transcendent in the transcendent. The self-wrapped ecstasy of transcendent delight in the transcendent. There is a transcendent delight. There is a delight in this world of forms and relationships and infinite variety of connections. Then there is a delight in that which is beyond time and space. Transcendent delight in the transcendent, which awaits us at the end of the path of devotion. So even in the path of devotion that starts with an idle love for the beloved form of the divine, even in that journey, this transcendent delight is waiting for us at the end. Has for its wider result a universal love for all beings, the Ananda of all that is. We perceive behind every veil the divine, spiritually embrace in all forms the all beautiful. So even what for the normal human consciousness appears to be ugly and crude, this expanded, enlarged, ascended consciousness world is all beautiful. Every form, every movement, everything is nothing but that. In that you see all beautiful. And this is the path of devotion where it takes, even when it takes us to the transcendent delight, it also is in the universal, this experience where the veils are removed, you see the spirit behind all things. Conscious, living spirit animating everything, the all beautiful, who is seated in your heart, seated in all hearts, seated in all beings, creatures, everywhere, omnipresent divine, immanent divine is discovered. Adoration fulfilled in love, love in Ananda, the surpassing love, the self-wrapped ecstasy of transcendent delight in the transcendent, which awaits us at the end of the path of devotion, has for its wider result a universal love for all beings, the Ananda of all that is. We perceive behind every veil the divine, spiritually embrace in all forms the all beautiful. It is a spiritual embrace. It's your spirit embracing everything from within. And it is happening because you're experiencing the all beautiful in all forms, wherever you look. A universal delight in his endless manifestation flows through us. That universal delight is flowing through us. We are channels through which that delight is flowing through freely, abundantly, taking in its surge every form and movement. So this wave has its surge. It comes in waves and surging through us, and that lifts up the forms. Surge every form and movement, but not bound or stationary in any. So this flow doesn't become bound or stationary in any form, and always reaching out to a greater and more perfect expression. So this universal delight is bringing out its expression in the world. One thing is to experience it, other is to express it. And our whole evolution on earth is to express the divine who is immanent, involved in this material nature. And nature's labor, yoga is yoga of nature. And she's laboring through the process of evolution to bring out beauty and delight of the immanent divine in this material world. And in that process, we human beings become the vessels through which the divine can express. In order to do so, the divine takes possession of you as an instrument, shapes you, molds you, perfects you, and through that increasing waves, some surging movements of the Ananda begins to flow through you. And it will not bind itself into any forms or become stationary with any limited forms. It will push the boundaries and extend all the possibilities. And that's where the evolutionary impulsion comes into, finding greater and greater perfection of expression in this material manifest world, of which we are the willing servitors and instruments. What a beautiful vision Sri Aurobindo is giving through this. A universal delight in his endless manifestation flows through us, taking in its surge every form and movement, but not bound or stationary in any, and always reaching out to a greater and more perfect expression. The whole yoga is a movement towards perfection, not a static perfection, but a dynamic perfection in the manifest world. And in the manifest world, beauty is the very presence of the divine. That's why when the divine manifests, there is a manifestation of beauty and harmony in the world. And they all go together. Harmony, beauty, love, delight. This universal love is liberative. and dynamic or transformation. So this universal love, it's not just an experience, it liberates you, it transforms you. It's a dynamic movement. That means it is incredibly creative. So it liberates you, it transforms you, and it is also incredibly creative, powerful, it's dynamic. For the discord of forms and appearances, discord of forms and appearances. Our world is full of forms and appearances, and there are discords in it. These discords ceases to affect the heart that has felt the one truth, capital T, truth, behind them all, and understood their perfect significance. So for an ignorant mind, things are veiled and discords are painful and you're not able to see. But for the one who is awake, seen the truth, you understand the significance of even the discords in the world. You understand the process of evolutionary transformation happening in the world. So you still see the divine beloved behind what appears to be the discords and conflicts of the world. There is an underlying presence that is leading through the appearances of the world. This universal love is liberative and dynamic or transformation. For the discord of forms and appearances ceases to affect the heart that has felt the one truth behind them all and understood their perfect significance. The impartial equality of soul, impartial equality of soul of the selfless worker. It's a selfless worker. Ego is all dissolved and you expand. There is no I, me, and myself. So that narrow self is all gone. You become selfless, you become this vaster universal self. Selfless worker and knower is transformed by the magic touch of divine love into an all-embracing ecstasy, the million-bodied beatitude. Million-bodied beatitude. So this entire world of forms, the bodies, all that become 1,000,000-bodied beatitude. There is grace, there is beauty, Ananda, harmony of the divine presence behind all things. So the impartial equality of the soul of the selfless worker and knower is transformed by the magic touch of the divine love. So when we are able to open the heart wide and experience the divine love, that is transforming us, that is liberating us, that is making us creative, and we are entering into a profound oneness with the million-bodied beatitude, an all-embracing ecstasy. All things become bodies, and all movements, all playings of the divine beloved in his infinite house of pleasure. House of pleasure. Normally, in spiritual schools, we see the pleasure. Our senses are seeking pleasure. And you need to reject all that, and there's a tendency towards killing the senses and taking into an ascetic journey. In integral yoga, there is a sublimation of the senses by a higher consciousness, and eventually discovering what he is referring to as the house of pleasure. This earth is a house of pleasure of the spirit, manifesting, initially veiled, and Ananda is distorted, but as the evolution progresses step by step, the divine, the spirit behind, finds more and more perfect expression, and earth becomes a house of pleasure. Our senses are refined So all things become bodies, and all movements and playings of the divine beloved in his infinite house of pleasure. Even pain is changed, and in their reaction and even in their essence, things painful alter. Many of the contacts through senses in this world are experienced as pain. And that is because we are untransformed. We are not able to receive the higher intense contacts from the surrounding life. And we are too narrow, too fragile. And as we evolve and expand our heart and mind and enter into the vaster consciousness, then the very nature of pain itself undergoes transformation. Even in their essence, and things painful alter. Everything that is painful will undergo transformation. The forms of pain fall away. There are created in their place the forms of Ananda. Forms of Ananda. And this is what art is trying in its journey. The very first attempt of arts, all arts, is to give us the experience of delight, rasa, Ananda, experience of profound joy of the soul. And in fact, the whole aesthetic theory in India, Navarasas, even the Bhayanaka, that which creates tremendous fear. Why people go for horror movies? There is something in us that is able to experience Ananda even in those forms. The shoka, the dukkha, the horror, everything. So not only the romance, but even the heroic violence, all that behind everything, the whole drama of the world, you experience Ananda of the divine presence behind all things. So all arts are trying to bring in this delight through its artistic forms. The soul of form or beauty, beautiful form, is delight. So when an artist is able to experience the inner delight, only such an artist can manifest beauty in forms. Unfortunately, in modern days, people are suffering, and they convert that suffering into crude and violent forms and claim that to be art. It is nothing but your crudity, unrefined and expressed in the name of art. It is self-expression, but expression of a crude self. Artist and art is, or art as a path, is given to us to explore and refine our inner nature and source our delight of the soul and bring out and express it in life. Even the most painful things can be expressed in a most beautiful way, where people can experience the deeper truth and at the same time without suffering, with Ananda. That is the greatest work of art. It can, through beautiful expressions, reveal even the most painful truths of life, and eventually bring in the divine presence through art. And this is where three different levels of art come into picture. First is to show the beauty through forms. Second is to reveal deeper truth of things. Third is to invoke the divine presence. So all that are possible through the forms of Ananda. But to do so, an artist must be a sadhak, a seeker, who is finding that delight within, and that is what eventually flows out into poetry, music, dance, architecture, painting, all that creation. So even pain is changed, and in their reaction and even in their essence, things painful alter. The forms of pain fall away. There are created in their place the forms of Ananda. So in future, as the evolution progresses more and more, we will rediscover the true function of art and create the world more and more beautiful, and our daily life more and more beautiful, our interiors beautiful, every object's beautiful, our thought, speech, action beautiful, material world beautiful. That is an inevitable consequence of our spiritual evolution. This is in its essence the nature of the change of consciousness, which turns existence itself into a glorified field of a divine love and Ananda. This is the type of transformation of consciousness, the change of consciousness we are looking at. We are not looking at an escape from life, a withdrawal from life, but the very transformation of our consciousness. And that change of consciousness reveals the all beautiful behind all forms, and not only reveals, its Ananda flows through us, and its waves and its currents will create through us more and more beautiful world in the process, moving towards greater and greater perfect expressions of Ananda, of our true spiritual nature, spirit and matter merging and melting, becoming one. And that is the change we are looking at. This is in its essence the nature of the change of consciousness, which turns existence itself into a glorified field of a divine love and Ananda. In its essence, it begins for the seeker when he passes from the ordinary to the spiritual level. That is where it begins. We have to move from the ordinary nature to a spiritual level, and looks with a new heart, because our heart is undergoing transformation. Looks with a new heart of luminous vision and feeling. There is a luminous vision and feeling on the world and self and others. It is that gives the perspective. When we move from ordinary to the spiritual, our heart is looking at the world through a luminous vision and feeling. Our feelings are refined and made sublime. And it is through that we are looking at the world and self and others. Everything is seen through that. Our eyes, we have a new eyes, new senses, new heart, through which the experience can pour in. Our capacity to perceive, to receive, to create, everything unfolds in this process. In its essence, it begins for the seeker when he passes from the ordinary to the spiritual level and looks with a new heart of luminous vision and feeling on the world and self and others. It reaches its height when the spiritual becomes also the supramental level. Remember, Aurobindo has given us various levels going from higher mind, illumined mind, intuition, overmind, and beyond that, the supramental. So we need to ascend in this process of sacrifice, the ascent of sacrifice, reaching the domain of the supramental reality. So it reaches its height when the spiritual becomes also the supramental level. And then also it is possible not only to feel it in essence, but to realize it dynamically as a power for transformation. A power for transformation of the whole inner life and the whole outer existence. So we are looking at not only to feel inwardly, but also outwardly, and also to transform it. The whole outer existence can be transformed. In fact, Sri Aurobindo's discovery is that it is the supramental level that, when brought down, can successfully transform the physical body and divinize it, and divinize matter itself. In ancient India, there was an attempt to divinize the body, and they used the method of Hatha Yoga. But Hatha Yoga couldn't mechanize or couldn't divinize the body because it was a mechanical method. It was not the native power of the spirit. It was a mechanical method invented by the human mind to divinize the body. And they had to put all their effort, whole day, doing elaborate, detailed kriyas and processes to gradually divinize the body. And even when they were able to extend the lifespan substantially and make the body as a bridge, the limitation of that was it was held in place by the consistent, regular practice. The moment you stop practice, it disintegrates and fall away. And also it remains as a isolated individual siddhi, not a common human collective possibility. For example, our current human mind, intellectual capacity is not an isolated phenomenon. It is well established in human nature among the billions of people. This is now an established evolutionary status possible for vast number of people. It is not something that we will lose. It is established. But these higher possibilities were held as an individual siddhi by isolated individuals. Now what evolution is preparing is to establish at a larger scale, at a universal nature scale, this so that it will be an established faculty across Earth. And it is supermind, supramental consciousness, that can successfully divinize the body consciousness, the material nature. Every range, everything below it is not fully capable of divinizing the material nature and manifest divine beauty, Ananda, delight. And this is the evolutionary future towards which we are moving. So it reaches its height when the spiritual becomes also the supramental level, and then also it is possible not only to feel it in essence, but realize it dynamically as a power for transformation of the whole inner life and the whole outer existence. It is subjective and objective at the same time. We are looking at divinizing the world, a divine life in this material world, the project Earth, divine's project Earth. Earth as a beautiful divinized space where in the matter, in the material nature, evolution is unfolding, and it is in the process of getting divinized. That is the evolutionary journey we are into, and integral yoga is a way to participate in that journey. And here Sri Aurobindo is giving us how, when we open through the heart, the sacrifice of love, and that expands the heart. All that humanitarian works, charitable works, all that actually opens up heart, but we need to go beyond the ego to see the divine essence behind all things. It is to the divine we are offering. Our love is for the divine. Idol worship helps, and then even simple adoration behind it, there is the impulsion of the spiritual force. When we open to it, surrender to it, it opens the heart. And all our human relationships, everything undergoes transformation because we are seeing beyond the veil to see the essential divine presence initially, and gradually even the forms doesn't veil. And it creates this unifying Ananda, and discover the divine love that is profoundly transformative, profoundly dynamic, profoundly creative. And that transforms the world. So with that, we come to the end of this episode. Thank you. Thank you for being with me in this journey. You may also subscribe to our mailing list. You will find the link in the description. See you next week. Thank you.